So, of course, we learned about the associative property yesterday and the commutative property, and we know that the commutative property, the numbers move. Technically, the numbers and the variables move, right? And with the associative property, those grouping symbols move. Okay. And evidently, that picture that I had on my video yesterday of Calvin and Hobbes was not suitable for students. And so YouTube took my video down from yesterday's lesson. So I had to edit a little bit. So, and we can remember what happens there with the associative property, right? Okay, number 4, we're going to look at our homework assignment and we're just going to walk through the homework assignment answers. Okay, hopefully you have this, but you didn't have to have all of this. So it all boils down to 11 plus R plus 3 boils down to 14 plus R. Okay, Mrs. Franzen, could I have written R plus 14 instead? Yes. Okay, so hopefully you have that. So what they did here was they left the numbers, or they left the parentheses where they were, and what did they switch around? The variable and the number. So that's the commutative property. Here's where they took those grouping symbols and moved them. So that's the associative property. They kept all the numbers and variables in the same order. And then they just added the 3 and the 11. Okay, your next answer could be 14t, or it could be t times 14 or 14 times t, right? Because there's several ways we can write that, but this is the most common way to write a number multiplied by a variable. Okay, so the first thing they did was they used the commutative property, right? They switched those numbers around. The second thing they did is they used the associative property to put the grouping symbols in a different spot, and then they solved. Okay, again, you don't have to have all of this. You just have to have this on your paper. If it's not like that, you can change it to that now. If you have 14 times t or t times 14, I prefer if we get used to doing the number and then the variable right next to it. Okay, so in this problem, all we needed to do to start out with was use that commutative property, change the number, change the order of the numbers, right? Well, Mrs. Franzen, it doesn't look like they changed the order of the numbers. Well, technically, that's what happened, okay? That's what they say happened. I actually don't even know if I agree with them. This is out of the answer key. Because did the numbers and the variables change spots? No, I believe they're wrong in the answer key. I think that should have been the associative property, because now we have the parentheses around the different number. So I'm going to say that's wrong, but you didn't have to write that down. You should just have 36 times W, or 36W. Not often you get an incorrect answer in your answer key, but it happens. All right. Now I'm looking at this one. 0 plus k in parentheses plus 24. What moved? The numbers switched around. The 0 and the k switched around. Parentheses stayed in the same spot. Now the parentheses switched from around the 0 and the k to around the 0 and the 24. That's the associative property. And then k plus 24 equals what we're looking for. Or you could have written 24 plus k. Okay. You don't have to show these second steps. It's not a big deal. They're just demonstrating what happened in the answer, and that's their explanation. And we could have made you do that, but I think that's a little more than we should do in the 6th grade. All right, starting with this one. Put your hand down. We have 35 times x in parentheses times 1. Okay? And now we have this number and this number flipped over. So that's the commutative properties. The number moved. Okay? And then what happened here? Everything's in the same order. So what is this one? Well, the parentheses moved, so it's the associative property. Those grouping symbols moved. And then we have x times 35. Well, the multiplication property of 1 says that anything times 1 is always just going to be the same number that you started with. So then we can assume that this x has a 1 in front of it. So it's multiplication property of 1. And now we can just multiply x times 35 and we get 35x. How many of you had that one right? I was worried about that one not being right. Now you could have written it 35 times x, or you could have written it x times 35, but I prefer we write it like this. Okay, the numbers and the variables stayed in the same spot on either side of the equal sign here, right? So that's the associative property of multiplication. And then they multiplied y times 0. Anything times 0 is 0, right? So that's the multiplication property of 0. And then we multiply 22 times 0. And again, that's the multiplication property of 0. How many of you got 0 for that answer? Yep, when we simplified that expression, the value is 0. Okay? All right, here are the answers for 10, 11, 12, and 13. Check your answers. Change them if you need to with your pencil and your eraser. Okay? Change it to this. Okay? And now is when I would want you to tuck this paper, since it has so many notes and good vocabulary about the associative property, about the commutative property, about the addition and multiplication properties of 1 and the addition property of 0, and so on. So these will live in your keep folder in your math 6 pocket folder. Okay, you can put those away when you're done. And then if you happen to have a device, will you go get them unplugged and bring them up? If you happen to have a device and your teacher will let you go get it, you may go get that now, quickly and quietly in my room. Okay, everybody should be in their seat if they need a device from me. I'm just going to have her walk around with them. Okay, just walk around and hand them out really fast and quietly. So we do have a Kahoot to do. And this Kahoot has to do with the associative property and the commutative property. So we're going to see how well we do on that. I think I need to log in. I was already logged in, so then I need to. Okay. Will you help her, please? I had one saved, but I don't see it. Golly, I'm not finding the one I saved. Okay. Well, maybe I need to get rid of that extra word. Pretty much the same thing. Oh, this one I haven't looked at. Okay, this one looks like a pretty good one. I'm assuming this is going to be a good one. It might have extra stuff in there that we haven't learned yet. I should have just made my own. Okay. Good. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm still unmuted. Okay, we have a helpful squid, Captain Griffin. I think we're about in. I'm going to go ahead and start. All right, the commutative property, associative property, distributive property, and identity property. Oh no, it's got stuff in there we haven't talked about yet. Do your best. States that you can change the order of the numbers without changing the result. We know this one. When the numbers move, what is that? Okay, commutative property is when the numbers move. Changing the order of a numbers when you add and multiply does not change the value. Let's not talk in between. Okay, if you're doubled up on a device, you can whisper really quietly, but don't talk because I'm still unmuted. Lets you multiply a sum by multiplying each add-in separately and then add the products. Ooh, this one we haven't learned about yet. It's the next thing we're going to do in this chapter. So those of you who read your math book for leisure would know that we will be doing this next. And you're my kind of peeps if you're reading ahead. It is the distributive property. Okay. When you add, subtract, multiply, or divide a number that allows the number to remain the same, what would that be? Okay. We didn't call it this, but it's something we've already talked about. Can I see your paper? I should have you guys add that to your notes. Okay. All right, the identity property is the same as that property that we talked about yesterday, the property of 1. It's called the identity property. I should have you add that to your notes. This states that grouping of numbers can be changed without changing the answer. So this is when the grouping symbols move. Those parentheses are moving. All right, good job, you guys. That's a very good result there. When the parentheses or grouping symbols move, it's the associative property. Remember your Calvin and Hobbes and the parentheses and the other name we have for donkey. Okay, name that property A times 1 equals A. This is the same answer that we had before about multiplying or adding, or yeah, multiplying by 1. Okay, so technically this would be the identity property of multiplication. Let me tell you one other thing. The identity property of addition would be any number that you add 0 to. That would be the identity property of addition. Okay, name the property. Parenthesis open, A plus B, parentheses close, plus C. And then A plus parentheses open, B plus C, parentheses close. What moved? Remember, those variables just really are numbers, okay? So that is the associative property. Those grouping symbols moved. The letters stayed in the same order. Name this property. Okay, this is the one we haven't talked about yet. It demonstrates the new property we're talking about tomorrow. Very good, the distributive property. Okay, so name this property. We're multiplying A times B times C with the parentheses around AB, and then those parentheses moved in the second side of the equal sign. So the letters stayed in the same place, the grouping symbols moved. You better all get this right. Woohoo, that's a pretty good amount. Okay, the associative property means that the grouping symbols move. The numbers and variables stay in the same order. Name this property. A plus B, flip it over, B plus A. Okay, what moved? There are no grouping symbols. Okay, so the variables move, and variables really are numbers, aren't they? Shh. Let's not shout out the answers. Very good. That's the commutative property. Ooh, sorry, I didn't let you guys see who was moving up. Now this property I just talked about, A plus 0 is A. Good job. So anytime you add 0 to a number, it remains the same. That's the identity property of addition. All right, here's that same thing we're looking at tomorrow, where you start out with A, parentheses B, plus C, parentheses closed, and then all of a sudden it starts giving the A to both the other two. It's distributing. All right, name this property. One number divided by 1 equals A. Okay. Name this property. Yep, the commutative property means that the numbers have changed. The numbers are moving. If you have a minus 0, any number minus 0 leaves it the same, so that would be very good. Yeah. 16 of 24, name this property. Very good, you guys. Those numbers move. That's the commutative property. Okay, numbers look like they're in the same order, but the grouping symbols are moving. Grouping symbols can be tilted, and they look like Calvin's little rear end, and then a donkey has another name, and that's in the word. Yeah, very good. Okay. Ooh, this is again what we're going to be doing tomorrow. We're going to start thinking about that tomorrow. Beauty, distributive property. All right. Good job, you guys. Please remember between questions to try to stay quiet. Very good. Those numbers changed orders. That's the commutative property. Very good. The identity property. Okay. Thank you for those of you who are remembering to stay quiet. Beautiful.
Yes.
Okay, last question. Awesome. That is the distributive property as well. Okay, let's see how we did. Congratulations, Smooth Zebra and Magic Jaguar and was it Smooth? Oh, Dr. Glider. Very good, you guys. Okay, and then we have a runners up down here, and everybody did a wonderful job. Okay. What we're going to do next then is we're going to pass out our homework assignment for today. It's one of those puzzle pages again, okay? And we're going to be naming properties, and we'll also be doing some simplifying like we did for our homework from yesterday. Okay, so if you wouldn't mind taking out your notes that I told you to put away a moment ago, please take out your notes that I told you to put away a moment ago. And on those notes where it says the multiplication property of 1, let's call that one the identity property, or put the word identity next to it. And then where it says the addition property of 0, let's call that one the identity property of addition. Okay, so I forgot about that, and I really think you guys need to know that, so I'm going to go ahead and have you add that to your notes because you'll be hearing that later on in the next few years anyways. Whoever has my iPad, please bring it to me. iPad's right here. No, not that one. The one that has the broken screen and the kitty cat background.
Wait, this one?
Yeah.
This is on you. There we go. I am not doing so good.
Okay. Right now, what I'm going to do next is I would like to show you guys and girls, and let's leave that open, please. I would like to show you girls and guys an app that works really well. I would like to see if I can get some money and buy it for the school so we can all log in and play it. But gosh, you guys, where is it? Oh, here it is. Math Balance, okay? So I have it on my iPads, but I want you guys to be able to try to download it. You can get the free version, but it only lets you play to just so far. So if I can get you guys access to the Math Balance school version that lets you play further into it, this one is really great for algebraic thinking. And if you're sitting in the car, you might as well exercise your brain if you can't exercise your body. So this one would be an excellent one to download. It looks childish, but really it's meant for kids 6, 7, 8, and 9 to practice their algebraic thinking. Okay, it starts out babyish and easy, easy, easy. But once you get to the harder ones, it gets to be a lot of really cool thinking that you have to do. Okay, Math Balance is the name of that iPad or iOS app that you can play. I do not know if it's on the other platforms or not. Okay, so we have all of our work for today done, and you can go ahead and start on your homework, that handout that your teachers are giving you. Oh, you know, I forgot to do one other thing. There was one other thing. Yeah, so pass out the papers and then look at this. Now, in Miss Lewis's class and in my class, I accidentally forgot to hit two-sided. So you actually have two pieces of paper, and we wasted some paper But I did catch it for Miss Mueller's and Miss Allen's class. You should have two-sided. I got it. Two papers, two different papers in this class. Hand it back together. Hand them both back. Hand them back to the front. Gentlemen. Just keep passing back. You don't have to be manual. Side, come over here, please. Okay, so what are we doing, Mrs. Frandsen? Well, I'll tell you what we're doing. We're going to go ahead and we're going to put some numbers in each of these X value charts. Okay? And then we're going to solve for each of them. Okay, so I'm going to try this. I tried to put dice in. In Microsoft and PowerPoint, it's easier to put dice and things in. And I was going to try to roll a virtual pair of dice. I just want one dice. Okay, I just wanted one at a time. You know, technology is great when it works. All right, so let's just go with these numbers that they give us. Okay, 2 and 6. So back here, I'm going to have you do this. You're going to put a 2, and since the dice aren't really working very well, we're going to do 2, 3, 4, and 5 in each of them. I wanted it to be funner than this, but oh well. More funner. How's that for grammar? I'm so sorry. More fun. Sorry. Okay, so what you're going to do on this side is you're going to think about these different expressions and what the results are. Okay, so in other words, you're just going to take and use your X value each time and plug it into your expression. So if I have to put a 2 there, what's my result? 4 plus 2 plus 4. Okay, these should be pretty much mental math. Okay, so 4 plus 3 plus 4.
11.
What do you think the next one's going to be?
12, 13.
Very good. Okay, so let's try it with this one here now. 16 times 2. Okay, so basically what you're doing is you're filling in each of the values that result from using these X values in this. Okay. Any questions on how to solve those? Okay, we'll talk about that a little bit more tomorrow. All right, and then on the front side of your paper, of course, you're going to just follow the directions and please solve the riddle. I think the riddle was, I forgot it already. Why was a book in the frying pan on the stove. So this one works the same way as the last one. You'll notice that answers 1 through 6 are on the top, and answers 7 through 14 are on the bottom. Okay? You do not have to show your work today. I think most of this is mental math. So you do not have to attach a second sheet of paper showing me your work. You can use the little spaces around that worksheet to do any calculating you might need to do. Okay? Give the remainder of math class to work, and good luck. Oh, I bet whoever it is texting me is wondering where the paper is online. Okay. So where do I go to answer that? Okay, the assignments from today and yesterday are not yet online, Micah. Except I'll show you where they are online. I kind of lied about that. If you go to My Classroom, and then you go to Classwork, and then you go to this week. Maybe it's that dice game that's making my computer so laggy, and the Kahoots that I have open. Okay, so you see how this tab has like a material icon instead of homework icon? In this materials icon, you can open that up, and that's our agenda. And the worksheets are actually linked into that agenda. The only thing there is you'd have to save a copy as a PDF and then do it on Kami or print it out. Okay, so yesterday's is right here, and when you click on it, it'll take you to that link where the PDF lives. Okay, and then again here, you'll get to today's worksheet. The only thing is on today's worksheet for Wednesday, I do not have that grid with the dice on it. That I printed out extra for the kids who are present, so don't worry about that one. Okay, and I will be putting them in your color groups shortly. Any other questions from anyone out there in math land? Hey guys, have a good day. Yes. Yep. I still want you to solve them though.